Anita's words echoed in my memory. We must do our best to be convincing. It was not her ability that I doubted, as much as my own. She had played the part of George Prince cleverly, unmasked only by an evil chance. I steeled myself to face the searching glances of the brigands as they shoved around us. This was a desperate game into which we had plunged. For all our acting, how easy it would be for some small chance thing abruptly to undo us. I realized it, and now, as I gazed into the peering faces of these men from Mars, I cursed myself for the witless rashness which had brought Anita into this. The brigands, some 10 or 15 of them here on deck, stood in a ring around us. They were all big men, nearly of a 7-foot average, dressed in leather jerkins and short leather breeches, with bare knees and flaring leather boots. Piratical swaggering fellows, knife blades mingled with small hand projectors fastened to their belts. Gray, heavy faces, some with scraggly, unshaven beards. They plucked at us, jabbering in Martian. One of them seemed the leader. I said sharply, "Are you the commander here? You speak the Earth English?" "Yes," he said readily. "I am commander here." He spoke English with the same freedom and accent as Miko. "Is this George Prince's sister?" "Yes. Her name is Anita Prince. Tell your men to take their hands off her." He waved his men away. They all seemed more interested in Anita than in me. He added, "I am Set Potton." He addressed Anita. "George Prince's sister? You are called Anita? I have heard of you. I knew your brother, indeed, you look very much like him." He swept his plumed hat to the grid with a swaggering gesture of homage. A courtier-like fellow this, debonair as a Venus cavalier. He accepted us. I realized that Anita's presence was extremely valuable in making us convincing. Yet there was about this Potton, as with Miko, a disturbing suggestion of irony. I could not make him out. I decided that we had fooled him. Then I remarked the steely glitter of his eyes as he turned to me. "You were an officer of the plane Terra?" The insignia of my rank was visible on my white jacket collar, which showed beneath the Arentz suit now that my helmet was off. "Yes. I was supposed to be. But a year ago I embarked upon this adventure with Miko. He was leading us to his cabin. The plane Terra wrecked? Miko dead? And Han and Coniston. George Prince too. We are the only survivors." While we divested ourselves of the Arentz suits, at his command, I told him briefly of the Planetara's fall. All had been killed on board, save Anita and me. We had escaped, awaited his coming. The treasure was here, we had located the Grantline camp, and were ready to lead him to it. Did he believe me? He listened quietly. He seemed not shocked at the death of his comrades. Nor yet pleased, merely imperturbable. I added with a sly, sidelong glance, there were too many of us on the plane Terra. The purser had joined us and many of the crew. And there was Miko's sister, the Setamoa, too many. The treasure divides better among less. An amused smile played on his thin gray lips. But he nodded. The fear which had leaped at me was allayed by his next words. "True enough, Haljan. He was a domineering fellow, Miko. A third of it all was for him alone. But now, the third would go to this subleader, Potton." The implication was obvious. I said, "Before we go any further, I can trust you for my share?" "Of course." I figured that my very boldness in bargaining so prematurely would convince him. I insisted, "Miss Prince will have her brother's share?" Clever Anita. She put in swiftly, "Oh, I give no information until you promise. We know the location of the Grantline camp, its weapons, its defenses, the amount and location of the treasure. I warn you, if you do not play us fair." He laughed heartily. He seemed to like us. He spread his huge legs as he lounged in his settle, and drank of the bowl which one of his men set before him. Little tigress. Fear me not, I play fair. He pushed 2 of the bowls across the table. Drink, Haljan. All is well with us and I am glad to know it. Miss Prince, drink my health as your leader. I waved it away from Anita. We need all our wits, your strong Martian drinks are dangerous. Look here, I'll tell you just how the situation stands. I plunged into a glib account of our supposed wanderings to find the Grantline camp, its location off the Mare Imbrium, hidden in a cavern there. Potton, with the drink, and under the gaze of Anita's eyes, was in high good humor. He laughed when I told him that we had dared to invade the Grantline camp, had smashed its exit ports, had even gotten up to have a look where the treasure was piled. Well done, Haljan. You're a fellow to my liking. But his gaze was on Anita. You dress like a man or a charming boy. She still wore the dark clothes of her brother. She said, I am used to action. Man's garb pleases me. You shall treat me like a man and give me my share of gold leaf. He had already demanded the reason for the signal from the Mare Imbrium. Miko's signal. It had not come again, though any moment I feared it. I told him that Grantline doubtless had repaired his damaged ports and sallied out to assail me in reprisal. And, seeing the brigand ship landing on Archimedes, had tried to lure him into a trap. I wondered if my explanation was convincing. It did not sound so. But he was flushed now with drink, and Anita added, Grantline knows the territory near his camp very well. But he is equipped only for short-range fighting. I took it up. It's like this, Potton, if he could get you to land unsuspectingly near his cavern. I pictured how Grantline might have figured on a sudden surprise attack upon the ship. It was his only chance to catch it unprepared. We were all 3 in friendly, intimate mood now. Potton said, We'll land down there right enough. But I need a few hours for my assembling. He will not dare advance, I said. Anita put in, smiling, he knows by now that we have unmasked his lure. Haljan and I, joining you, that silenced him. His light went out very promptly, didn't it? She flashed me a side gaze. Were we acting convincingly? But if Miko started up his signals again, they might so quickly betray us. Anita's thoughts were upon that, for she added, Grantline will not dare show his light. If he does, said Potton, we can blast him from here with a ray. Can't we? Yes, Potton agreed. If he comes within 10 miles, I have one powerful enough. We are assembling it now. And we have 30 men? Anita persisted. When we sail down to attack him, it should not be difficult to kill all the Grantline party. By heaven, Haljan, this girl of yours is small, but very bloodthirsty. And I'm glad Miko is dead, Anita added. I explained, that accursed Miko murdered her brother. Acting. And never once did we dare relax. If only Miko's signals would hold off and give us time. We may have talked for half an hour. We were in a small steel-lined cubby, located in the forward deck of the ship. The dome was over it. I could see from where I sat at the table that there was a forward observatory tower under the dome quite near here. The ship was laid out in rather similar fashion to the plane Terra, though considerably smaller. Potton had dismissed his men from the cubby so as to be alone with us. Out on the deck I could see them dragging apparatus about, bringing the mechanisms of giant projectors up from below and beginning to assemble them. Occasionally some of the men would come to our cubby windows to peer in curiously. My mind was roaming as I talked. For all my manner of casualness, I knew that haste was necessary. Whatever Anita and I were to do must be quickly done. But to win this fellow's utter confidence first was necessary, so that we might have the freedom of the ship, might move about unnoticed, unwatched. I was horribly tense inside. Through the dome windows across the deck from the cubby, the rocks of the lunar landscape were visible. I could see the brink of this ledge upon which the ship lay, the descending crags down the precipitous wall of Archimedes to the earthlit plains far below. Miko, Moa, and a few of the Planetaris crew were down there somewhere. Anita and I had a fairly definite plan. We were now in Potton's confidence. This interview at an end, I felt that our status among the Brigands would be established. We would be free to move about the ship, join in its activities. It ought to be possible to locate the signal room, get friendly with the operator there. Perhaps we could find a secret opportunity to flash a signal to Earth. This ship, I was confident, would have the power for a long-range signal, if not of too sustained a length. It would be a desperate thing to attempt, but our whole procedure was desperate. Anita could lure the duty man from the signal room. I might send a single flash or two that would reach the Earth. Just a distress signal, signed Grantline. If I could do that and not get caught. Anita was engaging Potton in talking of his plans. The brigand leader was boasting of them, of his well-equipped ship, the daring of his men, and questioning her about the size of the treasure. My thoughts were free to roam. While we were making friends with this brigand, the longest-range electronic projector was being assembled. Miko then could flash his signal and be damned to him. I would be on the deck with that projector. Its operator and I would turn it upon Miko, one flash of it and he and his little band would be wiped out. But there was our escape to be thought of. We could not remain very long with these brigands. We could tell them that the Grantline camp was on the Mare Imbrium. It would delay them for a time, but our lie would soon be discovered. We must escape from them, get away and back to Grantline. With Miko dead, a distress signal to Earth, and Potton in ignorance of Grantline's location, the treasure would be safe until help arrived from Earth. By the infernal, little Anita, you look like a dove, but you're a tigress. A comrade after my own heart, bloodthirsty as a fire worshipper. Her laugh rang out to mingle with his. Oh no, said Potton. I am treasure thirsty. We'll get the treasure. Never fear, little Anita. With you to lead us, I'm sure we will. A man entered the cubby. Potton looked frowningly around. What is it, Argyll? The fellow answered in Martian, leered at Anita and withdrew. Potton stood up. I noticed that he was unsteady with the drink. They want me with the work at the projectors. Go ahead, I said. He nodded. We were comrades now. Amuse yourself, Haljan. Or come out on deck if you wish. I will tell my men you are one of us. And tell them to keep their hands off Miss Prince. He stared at me. I had not thought of that, a woman among so many men. His own gaze at Anita was as offensive as any of his men could have given. He said, "Have no fear, little tigress." Anita laughed. "I'm afraid of nothing." But when he had lurched from the cabin, she touched me, smiled with her mannish swagger, for fear we were still observed, and murmured, "Oh Greg, I am afraid." We stayed in the cubby a few moments, whispering and planning. "You think the signal room is in the tower, Greg? This tower outside our window here?" "Yes, I think so." "Shall we go out and see?" "Yes. Keep near me always." "Oh Greg, I will." We deposited our erentz suits carefully in a corner of the cubby. We might need them so suddenly. Then we swaggered out to join the brigands working on the deck.